Coca-Cola is currently sold in over 200 countries and consumed 2 billion times every day. This global ubiquity was built on a foundation of specific, calculated decisions that reach far deeper than the secret recipe kept in an Atlanta vault. In 1885, America was a nation struggling to process the physical and emotional devastation of the Civil War. In growing, industrialized cities, citizens were exhausted, anxious, and suffering from chronic pain, creating a massive, unregulated market for drugstore elixirs known as patent medicines. One of those seeking relief was John Stith Pemberton, a former Confederate lieutenant colonel who sustained severe wounds in battle. Pemberton spent years dependent on morphine to manage his chronic pain. Hoping to create a non-opioid substitute, the trained pharmacist began mixing experiments in a brass kettle in his backyard. He combined two potent stimulants, extract from the West African cola nut for caffeine and extract from the South American coca leaf, the source of cocaine. Mixed with carbonated water and sold at local pharmacy counters as a tonic, the launch failed. In its first year, sales averaged 9 drinks a day. Pemberton died penniless 2 years later, never seeing his mixture evolve into a global empire. The recipe eventually landed with a Georgia businessman named Asa Griggs Candler, who purchased full control of the company for about $2,300. Candler abandoned the medical positioning and refocused the company on mass-market consumption. He realized that if people tried the syrup, the caffeine and sugar would do the work of bringing them back. He mailed out thousands of coupons for complimentary glasses, using a wave of free trials to establish the brand in soda fountains across the country. However, Candler was skeptical of the emerging bottling industry, believing the drink was meant to be experienced fresh at a pharmacy counter. In 1899, he signed away exclusive national bottling rights to 2 lawyers for a single dollar. This decentralized system allowed the product to spread rapidly, but it also invited cheap knockoffs using identical packaging. To protect their identity, the company held a design contest to create the contour glass bottle, a shape so distinct it could be recognized by touch alone in complete darkness. By 1903, the company had removed the actual cocaine from the recipe to avoid regulatory scrutiny. But by then, Candler's aggressive marketing and the unmistakable shape of the glass bottle had already secured a dominant position in the American market. To maintain its appeal without cocaine, the company relied on a concept food scientists call a bliss point, a specific sensory balance designed to maximize pleasure and minimize the body's natural stop signals. This chart illustrates the biological impact of 39 grams of sugar per can, triggering an immediate insulin response and energy spike. Now, a second line represents caffeine. To balance the sweetness, phosphoric acid provides a sharp bite, while caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, masking tiredness. Every element of this physiological cocktail is intentional, a precise chemical balance designed to satisfy the brain and keep the central nervous system demanding another sip. Chemistry was only half the strategy. To expand further, the company began associating its syrup with positive, universal human experiences. In the 1930s, they commissioned a series of holiday advertisements that defined the modern image of Santa Claus. They depicted him as a warm, human figure dressed in the exact shade of Coca-Cola Red, using the character to link the beverage with family and winter comfort. During the Second World War, CEO Robert Woodruff issued a directive to supply every American soldier with a bottle of Coca-Cola for 5 cents, regardless of the logistics or the cost to the company. This move essentially deputized the ES military as a global distribution arm. General Dwight D. Eisenhower cabled a direct request for equipment, and the military facilitated the construction of 64 bottling plants in war theaters around the world. Soldiers consumed over 5 billion bottles while deployed. In combat zones, the drink became a tangible connection to home, creating an emotional association that stayed with an entire generation after the war ended. When the war ended, those military-built factories remained. The brand entered the post-war era not just as a drink, but as a primary symbol of American culture in the rebuilt world. In the 1970s, Pepsi-Cola challenged this dominance by focusing on the one area Coca-Cola couldn't solve with nostalgia, a blind taste test. The results of the Pepsi challenge were consistent. When consumers were unable to see the labels or the logos, they frequently chose Pepsi's sweeter formulation over the original Coca-Cola recipe. Coca-Cola's management panicked. In April 1985, CEO Roberto Goizueta discontinued the 99-year-old formula and launched a sweeter variation called New Coke. The response was a massive public outcry. The company was flooded with 40,000 letters of protest in a single week. Consumers organized boycotts and hoarded cases of the original syrup, reacting as if a piece of their personal history had been erased. After 79 days, the company brought back the original recipe as Coca-Cola Classic. The return proved a billion-dollar reality. After a century of exposure, the public's loyalty belonged to the institution rather than the syrup itself. Today, the company faces structural challenges, from global sugar taxes intended to combat obesity to the environmental impact of its vast plastic waste. Yet the brand remains resilient. As the artist Andy Warhol noted, a Coke is the same for a president or a peasant. In a world of social inequality, the product offered a rare, perfectly consistent experience available to everyone. The brand evolved through 3 distinct phases: Pemberton's failed medicinal tonic, Candler's national sales engine, and finally, Woodruff's global cultural standard. Ultimately, the syrup's true value lies in the century of shared memories and associations attached to it, a set of stories so deeply embedded in the modern world that they have become more important than the ingredients themselves.